often when I send the video recording to the parents, they'll show it to their own child. And it's a really great sign that that teacher is a good fit.
That would be amazing. I mean, we have voicing over of images, and you could have kids or their parents leave questions in the side chat below and then stitch them in. And then you could just see how the teacher responds. Like there's a room on here that I can put a link to where Brett Hall is answering basic physics questions. I mean, Brett used to be a high school physics teacher. I would kill to have Brett as a tutor. Someone like that younger, perfect.
It's much easier to find an online tutor than an in-person tutor just because there's so many more options online than in person. Shireen and Alicia, I'm very curious to know how you find and vet your teachers.
That's a great question. Well, I think SPED teachers, special education teachers, really understand how to nuance curriculum and how to have any student or many students be at totally different places, totally different curriculums, totally different times in their life with grace. And so I tend to lean towards SPED teachers.
A lot of our teachers have come from referrals within the community, different people that we know, just word of mouth. Typically what we do when we have a lot of interest in someone teaching, more than one person teaching the same subject, is that we will invite them to come in and do a lesson and then have the kids vote for the teacher they enjoyed the class the best with. And then that's the one we'll offer the contract to. One thing that I'm really excited about is that we have a high number of educators or guides in our program that are at the doctorate level in their pedagogies. And so that really allows for youth and for parents to tap into a wealth of resources. We've also been really lucky over the more recent years to partner with the local university and being able to take the youth directly to some of the labs to experience course levels by some of the professors or graduate students.
Novelle, I'm super interested in hearing your thoughts on what are the projected skills that we're going to be needing moving into the future. I'm really looking at 2036 at this point, to preparing not only my own children, but the students that I serve.
I'm a simple guy. I think it's just numeracy and literacy. And numeracy is best learned in the context of something useful in the real world. So it could be physics, it could be engineering, it could be statistics, it could be running a business, etc. And literacy is best learned by just reading, and read what you love until you love to read. And these are foundations. And after that, you can pick up whatever you want, whatever you need, because the world is not staying static. It is moving and changing and switching around faster and faster. And what you want to be is you want to be creative. And to be creative, all you need are the tools and desire. And those tools are numeracy and literacy.
So I say very clearly in my Unschooled book that it's a parent's responsibility to ensure that their children are highly literate and numerate. And I believe this is the case whether your children are homeschooled, unschooled, or attend a conventional public or private school, that it's ultimately a parent's responsibility to ensure that your children are highly educated. And we know, of course, from some of the dismal results we're seeing in conventional schooling that those levels of literacy and numeracy that we would expect are simply not there. And so I think parents should be concerned about that. Regardless of the educational environment that their children are in. I think the benefit of homeschooling and unschooling is that we're kind of living and learning alongside of our children. So we have a much clearer picture of what they're interested in and of their strengths and weaknesses, and we can introduce ideas and material to them. We can connect them to resources in the wider community. And then, you find through that process, again, the foundation or the premise being that we believe that humans are naturally curious and eager to explore and discover their world, that as part of that process, they will become highly literate and highly numerate. And that's certainly been my experience in my own family and in the families that I have certainly interviewed and talked with over the years.
Okay, then. So if that's true, why do we care at all about finding these amazing tutors? Why does Aristotle even matter? Just get an adaptive learning app, learn how to read, learn some basic math. Why do you need a teacher at all?
Two reasons. One, it's actually really hard to get kids to learn math. I've had a hard time doing it, and I want to try every possible way, from riddles and puzzles to incorporating it into everyday life. And just having someone around them who cares about their education and who's always willing to engage with them while always bringing back numeracy and literacy. And then second, beyond numeracy and literacy, then they get to pick and engage in what they're interested in. Rachel, let me ask you the most difficult question, especially because you've got Math Rachel as your handle. How did you get your daughter interested in math? I find that with young kids, getting them to engage in math, especially in the abstract, is such a chore. I do remember someone talking about, I think it was William Glasser, the creator of choice theory, talking about how the right way to get kids interested in math is to do word problems with them or real world problems. But even that still gets fairly difficult. I'm just wondering how you managed to get them excited about learning and studying math. My philosophy is basically, hey, if you do your math, then you can kind of get whatever else you want. And you can read any book you want. I don't care which one, just read something. And then after that, you're kind of a free agent. And I think I can talk them into programming just by introducing them to Minecraft modding and things that are fairly fun. But on mathematics, they just don't see the point. It's a chore. It's a struggle. And it's the one thing that I really want them to learn that I don't think they're going to intuitively pick up from the environment around them. And unlike some other people on this platform, I do believe in brain plasticity. So I think that if they get to it earlier, then they're just going to be better at it, more facile with mathematics. And I think it's harder to pick it up later in life.
Yeah. So for getting my daughter engaged with math, we used a mix of manipulables, so kind of tangible things she can use with her hands, whether that's Cuisenaire rods or balances with weights of different sizes, as well as apps. There are so many great, very visually appealing math apps out there, particularly Dragon Box Algebra is fantastic, Slice Fractions. There's some really neat ones. I do think with math resources, there is an element as a parent of having to see kind of both, what is well done and appealing, and also kind of is catching your child's interest and is not too boring or too difficult for them. And so just kind of filtering can be challenging because there's so many resources to choose from, and recognizing there are a lot of math resources that I find boring.
So there's a lot here that I'm really struggling to encapsulate in these very short audio clips, but I think we need to release many of our trap priors around getting our kids to do anything. I think that's a real barrier. We don't get our kids to do something. We talk to them like human beings so that it's in their self-interest to think about their future. When it comes to math, I don't think mathematics is any different from any other subject. I think that there are probably some barriers that people erect when it comes to a student versus teacher mentality. And I think that's why starting early with homeschooling is such a good idea.
So I think in the early years of introducing mathematics to my children, it was similar to introducing reading, just like we sing ABCs or, talk about letter sounds when we're, going through the motions of our day. I think we did the same thing with numbers, right? So just as you would sing the ABCs, you'd also talk about 1, 2, 3s. And then specifically my daughter, it was clear that she became more and more interested in mathematics. So we would grab workbooks that she would go through, again, having no coercion. She was never required to do workbooks. They were always available if she wanted to participate in them and to work through them, but it was never something we sat down and said, oh, it's math time or it's workbook time, but she gravitated to them and that was what she liked to do. We also found various computer programs. I mentioned Prodigy Math. There's IXL.com, obviously Khan Academy. We had a math tutor in our city that provided various homeschool classes that didn't teach math. She didn't teach kind of addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. It was really learning math through play and sort of logic games and puzzles. My kids also love board games. And I think there's so much math to be learned through board games. If we think about, Monopoly, and some of the other games that focus on strategy and logic and building those sort of neurological pathways to learn math. So it's, again, learning through play and connecting children to resources, again, either in literacy or numeracy. It's all the same thing. As adults, often we carry with us a lot of baggage when it comes to math. And I think some of that, or a lot of that, is probably due to the way math was taught to us and presented to us. And I think for many of us, it, symbol drudgery and tedium and, is not something that we looked forward to. And I think with unschoolers and those who learn in more self-directed ways, there isn't that baggage, that they have no mental model to think of math as anything but joyful and exciting. That's certainly been my experience.